The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello, and help me welcome Mrs. Hunt, President of the Chamber of Commerce here in Nashua.
Thank you.
How are you doing today? What's happening with the Chamber?
Oh, that's a big question. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm Wendy Hunt. For those of you that don't know me, this is my 5th month. I'm starting my 5th month with the Chamber. Prior to this, I ran the Greater Merrimack-Sauhegan Valley Chamber. Have quite a few crossover members, so it was nice to know some people before I got here. We are in the process of reopening like every other business. We're doing in-person events now. We're doing a lot of future planning, all based around a pro-business agenda.
And what do you mean by pro-business? What exactly does that mean to you?
Advocacy is a very big part of our chamber. Not all chambers advocate, which, if you're a tourist destination, maybe you're not doing that, but we are more of a business location than a tourist. Not that we don't have day tourists, but our main focus is to make sure that local, state, and federal legislation is pro-business, so that it doesn't put heavy taxes on a business or get in between the employer and employee when it comes to how they want to run their business.
And not only taxes, but regulations and
Correct.
stuff like that.
Right, exactly.
Because I served for 4 terms up there, and I found it very interesting. Back in 2011, we had a committee to look at the regulations and how they are imposed on businesses. And I hope it's changed significantly since then. But you always have to watch out. They're always looking for methods of getting income. And,
right.
What's the first thing to do? Hit the businesses. You know?
Correct.
And I don't think people realize that, you hit the businesses, they just pass it on to their customers.
Either that or they can't be as involved in their communities.
That's right.
If they're getting hit with taxes, when you take your child that's a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout or a cheerleader or a football player in for the business to ask for a donation, they may not be able to do it.
Yeah.
So that is our purpose, is strong business equals strong community equals a great place to live. So that is our focus at the Chamber, is to make our businesses stronger so that we thrive as a community.
What kind of events are you going to sponsor to do that, to try to bring them together a little bit better?
Well, so a chamber runs a couple different ways, with membership aspect, and we have events, and we have advocacy. So we talked a little about advocacy. So we've gone back to in-person events. The networking is a big part of what we do, so that businesses can meet one-on-one at our business after hours. We usually have it at a business member that hosts us. One of our big events coming up this year is the 93rd Annual Gala and our Citizen of the Year. And that is going to be November 10th. And that brings together city leaders, business leaders, families. The former Citizens of the Year are the ones that are the committee that make up who's going to be the next Citizen of the Year, with a little bit of community input. We ask for applications for that. That is a really great event, because that is the place to be if you want to meet somebody and network. But other events we do a lot of business education. We have one coming up, I think it's August 18th, with Apprentice New Hampshire, which will give the business tools to work with that part. I think it's an independent department under the BEA, but which used to be DREAD, for those that still use that terminology, to show businesses how they can sponsor a student still in high school to put them through the track to come work for their company eventually. We have another one August 26th that's going to be with Nashua PD and the FBI to talk about cybersecurity for businesses.
Oh, really?
So we try to do topics that have to do with our business needs. So right now, obviously, the cybersecurity is huge, with people's businesses and computers being taken over and held for ransom. And then the workforce shortage is a huge problem right now that we're trying to address. We not only do these by ourselves as a Greater Nashua Chamber, we also are part of the New Hampshire Commerce Corridor Coalition, and that's the 7 chambers in Merrimack Valley region. We sort of united by default, because when the governor had gopher money and we weren't eligible for it, they worked out a way where we could have contracts with the state and do basically, our project was talent recruitment. We did basic signage for all the businesses, if if they wanted people to mask up, and different projects like that. We created a website. So that's the only thing that came out of COVID for the chamber world, is we really work together now as chambers in our regions. Yeah, it's good for the region. Yep.
Are you learning from one another?
We are. We bounce ideas off one another. And really, if you look at the business revenue that comes out of from Concord South, we are like over 50% of it. So we're making a little noise.
Well, I hope you're becoming more effective too by getting the people together, getting joint things that.
And a lot of what we did during COVID, and thank goodness, and we're in the recovery now, and we'll hopefully all stay healthy, and the economy will continue to improve. Is I'm also on the board of the New Hampshire Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives, and I'm their current board chair. And so we're very efficient in getting information out to all businesses, not just chamber members across the state. And what we did is we cooperated together, because if we wanted to get Taylor Caswell or the governor or something like that on a webinar, we didn't want 40 different chambers doing the same topic. So we really worked together to get that information out. And that leads me to another great point about all the partnerships that we have. The city's our partner, Small Business Development Center, SBA, the Business and Economic Affairs Department. There are a lot of partnerships that we have that make us work more efficiently and give our members and our community better reach.
How do you work with these new companies that want to come in, or new companies just getting started? Is it
we don't necessarily help companies start. We help them grow.
Okay.
If a company comes to us and says, I have a great idea how to start a business, I'm going to refer them to our partners at the Small Business Development Center.
Okay.
Part of what we're doing right now is starting in September with Adult Learning Center and the Small Business Development Center, and later on the city's going to join us, is we're actually going to do a diversity inclusion, just what you're talking about, how to start a business. These are our new Americans, our population that's not English speaking as their first language. And they may not know how to start a business in Nashua.
Right.
So that's what we're going to assist them with 6 different series of, what do you like to do? What did you do in your country? All the way up. And then when the city's going to come in starting in January, and we'll talk to like the health department. We'll talk to economic development, community development, of what's specific to the city, of how you open a business here, or how do you find a space? How do you find financing? All of those topics we're going to cover.
I know we did meet briefly on the rail committee, which I serve on. What do you think about that project?
I think that it's very pro for this state. I think there have been studies, and I can't remember where I exactly saw them, that younger workforce want the railway. And with a workforce shortage and a housing shortage, I think that railway coming through here would be phenomenal for the economic development of this region.
Well, I think not only did the young people and passages, I think that we're missing things like the people that want to come up to southern New Hampshire.
Right.
That's almost a commute for them. But the business area, I see a lot of places that we're having distribution depots come up.
Right.
And you're going to be using rail for some of that stuff. There's
That's
a
right.
lot of heavy travel, heavy things that go on the rail.
Right. And we have a lot of land, and we would love to have those distribution centers paying taxes, commercial taxes on those in our areas.
But I mean, those two elements give you better justification for it. I mean, you one of the things that I've always found in politics is sometimes the ideas get started before they've worked out a way of financing them.
Right. But now we have a good chance.
That's right. And I think if you look at it as a whole and you help get all the things together, then you start off and it has a better chance of succeeding.
Right. And I think there were always great people on board with this, so to speak, no pun intended. But I think even now there's a lot more support for this now that the fine details are being worked out. So I think it would be a huge plus for the Nashua region.
Did you hear anything about the rail expansion in the other communities that you handled in the other your previous job?
We did. I think the people to the west were more hesitant. Like, what is it going to do for us?
Right.
It's going to do a lot region wide. I mean, it's not just it's a domino effect. When good things happen here, they go out into the suburbs.
Right.
So hopefully, we've changed some minds out in that region.
Okay, I agree with you there. I
Yeah.
think that's the whole thing that we have to
Right.
do. We have to work together, and there is
Right.
a benefit that just keeps on.
It's
supplying
infrastructure, and
itself.
infrastructure is always a good
That's
thing.
right. That's right. Well, what are you doing to bring the chamber closer to the people, the voters and stuff? Anything?
Well, we will next year. We're going to have our candidates forum. This year was a little different because of COVID. We didn't really have any candidate series in 2020. We will in 2022, probably throughout the year, I would say. We also have legislative events. We start off with a legislative kickoff, which is December, and you talk about, you have the newly elected legislators, and we talk about what we think is going to be happening up there. We have some speakers, and then we have a different series of breakfasts during the session. And then when it's crossover time in late March or April, we usually have also an event there, and we invite every legislator from this region to come talk to us. We did it via Zoom this year. It wasn't quite as spectacular as in person, but it was still it was very eye-opening. People they are very honest when they're at these events.
Several years ago, I worked with the chamber as a legislator to have them man a debate between the parties. Would you be interested in doing something like that?
I would have to check with my board, but I think that the more information to the public, the better.
Right.
We also do a State of the City in February with the mayor, and we do State of the State in June or July with the governor. And we just did that in the middle of last month.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate. But we haven't done any of these debates since, I guess, 2012.
Right. Well, I think definitely having people have more access to the candidates is a good thing.
I think
especially if you can ask questions.
Yeah, and the fact that if you can do it where it doesn't cost too much,
right?
I think is a way of getting the people. I mean, that's one of the reasons we have these programs here on public access TV, is that it's to get the people to know who's going to be doing some of their legislation.
Right.
So anyway, I was wondering if there's any other events you thought you've been thinking of. You have a lot so far.
We have a big calendar. Starting in September, our Leadership Greater Nashua class of 2022 will kick off. That is a really interesting, I had not had a leadership course at my last chamber. It is really interesting. If you have an employee or yourself, we're still taking applications. We're almost full. But it's a really great in-depth view of what goes on in Nashua, the different segments. The first one, we're going to kick off out and do a retreat and do history in Nashua. Then we're going to cover each first Wednesday of the month all day. They do a project that's for the good of Nashua. Some are long-lasting, like a playground. Others are shorter in duration. They did a nonprofit summit one year where they let all the nonprofits in the area come in and really tell them, like, what are your needs? And what it did was the people that did the Leadership Greater Nashua course that year, they got to really see, why would I want to be on a board of a nonprofit? And that was, that's something we're going to try to do this year as well with, there's a nonprofit day. This year we're going to go up to the state capitol and hopefully see one of the chambers in session. But it really gives them a good history of what the past problems were, what the current problems are, and what we think the future, where do we want to aim the direction. It just really gives them the tools to do that. So that is one of our really outstanding programs, I think, that we offer.
There's a lot of nonprofits here in Nashua, aren't there?
There are.
I was surprised the first time I went to one of their meetings.
All sizes, too.
Yeah, that's right.
They do so much for this community.
And some of them are starting to merge together. Is that still going on? I haven't heard of any mergers lately. Okay.
it makes sense sometimes if you're going after the same donors and
Right.
the same sponsors and doing similar events, and you have a very similar cause, that you would be able to do that. Those are the C3s. The C6s, I'll give you an example. My former chamber was the Sauhegan Valley Chamber, and at the beginning of COVID in 2020, we had just merged with Merrimack because it just made more sense.
Yeah, sure.
So I am seeing that, especially in the chamber world.
Okay, because I think, money isn't just
Right.
floating around, but
You're going after the same
much more
corporations for big donations
Right.
and the same memberships.
Yeah.
So it did make sense in that case.
yeah. Do you see any other need in the city yet? I mean, you've only been here 5 months looking at the details of
Well,
everything.
Workforce, for sure.
Yeah.
I know a lot of businesses are limiting their hours
Right.
because of a lack of employees. They
Oh,
don't
yeah.
want to burn them out. The ones that they do have, housing has always been a problem. And I'm hoping that, I think with Imagine Nashua, that's a great project going on. I'm hoping that we're going to build a lot more workforce housing because we need it.
What about training as people? Is there any kind of training? Because
Well, I tell you what, the Nashua high school system does a good job
Yes.
with their VOTEC type programs. I think they call it something else, so you have to excuse me if I may be dating myself by calling it VOTEC. I think I am. We really encourage the school to work programs. I think that the schools are doing a much better job now of educating students that not everybody is college bound. The kids may go to college, get a ton of debt, and maybe they wanted to be in a trade. So I would really encourage that in the school systems, and I think this area
look
does a
at
very
that
good
a
job of
little
that.
bit, yeah.
It's interesting. My older two have been out of school. They're twins. Have been out of school 9 years, and I do not remember them being offered anything but a college track. And as a parent, I think that
now,
not every kid needs to go to college
right.
when they can have a much more lucrative career with benefits in a trade.
quicker sometimes.
Yeah, and not all the debt.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
a lot of the companies are offering to train them,
That's right.
which is even better. And I know the colleges are doing a really great job with that too. Riviera's nursing program, for example, is phenomenal. I think they're the #1 nursing school in the state, and they're right here in Nashua.
Yeah, and the 2-year schools are doing a very good
Right.
job. They have a number of different types of expertise, some of which are very advanced
Right.
for technology, and I think that's the way to go.
Right.
I was just wondering if there's enough publicity on all this, enough showing how they're successful, because we need it. I mean, I was surprised that, and I don't know if this is, if you would believe this too, that the money that was given out to all the people because of the virus and everything is keeping people from getting back to work. But I went to Kohl's 2 days ago, and it was like Christmas, where one way, because they didn't have enough people to man the cashiers, that they had a lineup, that
Oh my
went
gosh.
around the middle of the store.
So it's interesting you say that. I think that, when the governor did away with the extra $300 a week, that definitely was going to help the workforce. But I was on a call the other day about childcare and lack of really good quality childcare, and the big unknown about the schools in the fall. Are kids going back? Are they not going back? So some people on that call kind of felt like, well, maybe people are waiting to go back into the workforce because they've been home with their kids for 18 months. They're not sure what's going to happen. Do they go back to work and then have to come back home? So it all kind of plays into it. I don't know. And I know some people that took early retirement. They just got burned out. It's interesting. Our Eminence Awards event at the beginning of June is our annual business awards. And this year we chose to have a diversity and inclusion theme to embrace our diversity. And our speaker was Will Arvello from the state of he's with the Business and Economic Affairs Department, and he's basically the director of diversity for the state. Very interesting man, from Puerto Rico originally. His sense was that Nashua is ahead of the game with workforce because we embrace our diversity. Because when we have this population move here, if we're a welcoming city, they get good jobs, they have a happy community, they're gonna ask their families and friends to move here as well, which are going to be our workers. So the studies he was quoting were saying that the cities that embrace diversity are the ones that will grow. The ones that don't will just stay stagnant. So that was very eye-opening, I think, to everyone at that event. That I think we have 27 or 28% of our population in Nashua, of our residents, are non-English speaking as first language.
That seems to be a problem. I was just wondering if there's any way of publicizing extra training for these people.
Well, Adult Learning Center is doing a great job with that, and that's why we're partnering with them on this diversity and inclusion. I became interested in this project when I came to the Chamber, because I'm also on the Small Business Development Board, and it was very eye-opening when I joined that board about 6-7 months ago. One of our new board members was from the NAACP in Manchester. And we were talking about, we were just talking before the meeting, a bunch of us, and we were talking about, boy, didn't we do a great job getting those resources out, patting ourselves on the back. She goes, well, that's very true if you spoke English. If you didn't speak English, you probably didn't know what was going on. And that just really hit home for me, that I don't think, my chamber wasn't very diverse. But we're not doing a good enough job for that business community, is my point. And I would like the chamber to reflect more of what the community is made up of.
How would you address that in the schools? To me, I don't have any children here that are in school, but to push the people in there that have problems understanding English is a little
out of my area of expertise.
Yeah, but I was just wondering whether you thought that we could make extra time available, like you're teaching the adults, but the kids could maybe take extra or weekend sessions where they learn English a little faster.
I'm not sure about that. I do remember when we were from Florida originally, and when my kids were little, they had some children that were non-English speaking in the first grade, and within 6 weeks, the kids were not only speaking English. I'm not kidding. I couldn't believe it. Yeah. They'd never been to America before. They spoke no English. The parents spoke no English, and by 6 or 8 weeks, they not only knew a lot of words, they knew all the bad words and the slang words. So they pick it up a lot quicker than the adults. But I do think you have a point about going younger. We did a study with my old chamber, and it was actually a grant written by Sarah Marchant, who was the community development director in Amherst at the time before she came to Nashua. And it was just that, about the skills gap. And what we found, we studied businesses in Amherst and Milford. We had to pick just 2 towns, and we talked to employers, and then we talked to students, and we talked to the schools. And what we found was, if you talk to students in high school about these vo-tech jobs and these trades, it's too late. You need to be introducing it in the middle school. And the parents, the kids, and the other interesting thing is the kids were buying into it. It was the parents you had to sell a little harder on it, because the parents wanted their kids to be on. And these were just 2 towns. It may have been a different result had we done the study here, and maybe we should. But I found it very interesting that we really should have been introducing this in the middle school ages versus when you get 9th, 10th grade. It's almost too late. You're not going to convince them. So that is probably something that we should talk about bringing to Nashua.
Okay, I've always wondered about that. I haven't gone into, but now my grandkids might learn, they just start going through the higher elementary school classes. And, I don't know. They would probably know more than I do. My kids are no longer in school too, so. Yeah. Well, you'll have grandkids soon. Maybe not.
I would like to think so. I don't know if anybody's going to cooperate at my house, but that would be nice.
Well, good luck on that. That's a thing in itself. I've had 4 children, and they're all different. So they all have different futures, and they all tried to have some kind of careers, and that kept them from getting married or not.
Did you have any engineers, since you're an engineer?
No. I'm a chemist myself.
I have a daughter that's a chemist.
Yeah.
She works for Pace LabCorp. She's got the white lab coat and everything.
The interesting is I have a person who was in business. I had a lawyer, I have an artist, and I have, I don't know what, a small business owner now. She's made a career
Good for
for
her.
herself
Good for her.
without going to college.
That's
So anyway,
good for her.
what else do you want to tell us about the chamber and your plans? Some plans that you haven't discussed yet in the future?
Well, the diversity inclusion
Yeah.
program is that we're launching in the fall is something we've never done before. And I'm very excited about all the partners that are really on board with this. And I know the city has done a great job. During COVID, they were working just nonstop to help this diverse population. So I think this city does a really good job with that. I guess the other thing I would want to talk about is supporting the nonprofits. Feel that's very important for the chamber to do. We are not a social service organization, we're a business organization, but we certainly like to support our nonprofits because the nonprofits are what make this city run even better.
And you think that we have any problems like, well, compare us to Manchester, some of the things that are happening up there hopefully don't happen down
Right. I had a nice meeting with the police chief a couple weeks ago and some of his staff, and I think that we're doing a pretty good job here. They are to be commended. I know there's some graffiti going on downtown, but some of the back buildings. But yeah, I think this city's
Well, there's
a
a
good
little,
happening place.
there's a little discussion on what the police commission is going to how they're going to handle
Oh, don't
that.
draw me into that now. We are a non-political organization.
Right. Well, hopefully you bring us all together and we get something accomplished. I hope we do it on a more business-like way, because I think that's what I found in the legislature. The people that knew how to write a legislation were the businessmen, because they knew the effect of some of these actions.
Right.
And if you can bring that message across, I think you'll be very successful.
Well, thank you. I'm going to try, but can't do it alone. I have a great staff. My board is fantastic. Brian Law is my board chair this year. I'm very lucky to have such a very supportive and active board.
Good. Very good. You always need...
All successful business people.
That's right.
We're all chamber members before and
But
just...
that's what you have to have.
Right.
I have to have your team.
Right.
working
Cannot
together.
do this job alone.
Okay. Very good. Well, thank you very much
Thank
for
you,
your
Carl.
time. And you're welcome back anytime you want to come on to talk about some project that you're doing there, how your diversity
That'd be
thing is
great.
working.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.